पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव
So, good morning and good evening. Let us begin. So, starting with this aspiration, the chant that we were just listening to, I get attached, attracted, tied up, tied down, tied with everything, everyone that I fancy, that is around me. And yet I am constantly reminded, if I am willing to be reminded, that may I attach only to the divine. Because divine is truly everything for me. So may I realize that if I have to attach, may I attach to the divine. Yeah. Let us begin our study circle on looking from within. We are in the section ordeals and difficulties, and in the subsection difficulties, a help for realization. We have covered most of the passages, just 3 small passages are left. I'll read them. So the first small passage by the mother is difficulties come because there are possibilities in you. If in life everything was easy, then it would be a life of nothing. Because difficulties come on your way, it shows you have possibility, the mother. Even knowing that difficulties are good for us, most of us, most of the time, we are complaining, right? Like it's always taken as a punishment. I must have done something wrong, or why is God so cruel or unkind? Why does this always happen to me? Why couldn't something else happen instead? But Mother reminds us yet again in her kindness that difficulties come because there are possibilities in you. Again, it ties up with what we were discussing last time and what we talk about often, that what is the aim of my life? Where is my life heading? Where do I want it to head? If the aim is comfort, it's just happiness, it's just living the everyday as comfortably as possible, then I can never accept a difficulty as a possibility. That it's there to increase my capacity, capability, myself. And yet, if I know I'm here for a higher reason, I'm here for progress, then even if I'm complaining, a part of me can clearly see that yes, something else needs to be dropped, learned, given up, offered, transcended. And this is the reason why a problem comes, or a problem comes repeatedly, because I refuse to learn the lesson. There's a quote by someone, I don't know who, that pain will leave you as soon as it's done teaching you the lesson. Something like this. So, yeah. So, if in life everything was easy, then it would be a life of nothing. Because difficulties come on your way, it shows you have possibilities. And we need those possibilities, because otherwise, of course, there is, first of all, no progress, just stagnancy. And then we are not happy with, of course, we are not happy when things are difficult. And we are neither happy when there's nothing going on. We do need movements. So if there has to be movements, it's grace that it's movement of progress, cost whatever may be the price. Yeah. Moving on. The next small line from the mother is, for the aspirant and the sadhak, all that comes in his life comes to help him to know the truth and to live it. So, the one who's aspiring, the one who's on the path of sadhana, self refinement, self correction, self development, self transformation, a sadhak, all that comes in his life comes to help him to know the truth and to live it. We say we want the truth, often say we want the truth, and yet when truth comes, we cry out. But Mother is reminding us that if one truly aspires, so then one knows that all that will be sent to me, that I will be made to face, will come to help me know the truth and to live it. So that's good news for us. The next line from the mother is the last one. The difficulties come always to make us progress. The greater the difficulty, the greater can be the progress. So again, on the same lines, and yet always touching different aspects, and repetitions we do need because we forget. So, yes, things are difficult, but they are difficult so that we can course correct, so that we can progress, change, give up our stubbornnesses, our attachments, and move forward. And this we have heard often, the greater the difficulty, the greater can be the progress. It doesn't, Mother doesn't say must be, will be. It depends on me, how I take it. I can get crushed, I can get depressed, I can give up. But if I don't, Sri Aurobindo's Aryan, Kabir's Surma, if I don't, the greater can be progress. It's so easy to read this, talk about this, listen to this. But when I have to take the challenges head on, when I have to do the walk, not just the talk, then it is a different ball game. And yet, that is the purpose, that is my sadhana. This is like we have to reverse our relationship with pain and suffering and difficulties. Somewhere we have been conditioned. And of course, we always have to transcend whenever there is a big challenge. So we naturally feel this is not good, this is not good. And I want to avoid it at all costs. And yet, if I look at facts now, I can say, I can tell myself, I can press the reset button if I am ready, that the difficulties come always to make us progress. The greater the difficulty, the greater can be the progress, the mother. So with this, we complete the subsection 2. And now we can take us subsection 3, difficulties of the character. So there is this passage from Sri Aurobindo. He says, the difficulties of the character persist so long as one yields to them in action when they rise. One has to make a strict rule not to act according to the impulses of anger, ego, or whatever the weakness may be that one wants to get rid of. For if one does act in the heat of the moment, not to justify or persist in the action. If one does that, after a time the difficulty abates or is confined purely to a subjective movement which one can observe, detach oneself from, and combat. Sri Aurobindo. So going through it line by line, Sri Aurobindo says, the difficulties of the character, my personality, my nature, in which I say, aisa hi hu main, this is the way I am. So the difficulties of the character persist so long as one yields to them in action when they rise. So every time, a tendency, a habit comes up in my being, a greed, a desire, a lust comes up in my being, every time I follow its dictate, every time when I become a slave to them, every time, I'm that genie which says, Jo hukum mere aaka, your command, your wish is my command, my master. To my greed, my attractions, my desires, my lust, every time I make it harder for me to transcend, to step back, to disengage, to detach from that impulse, from that action. I feel helpless. I feel weak. I feel I have no choice. I feel that is the nature. What can I do? I've been doing it for too long. I'm too old now. And yet, those are just excuses given by the ego, given by the illusionary nature of things, making me feel weak or incapable. Or maybe one doesn't even fully feel the need, one feels justified because the desires are still attractive. So, Sri Aurobindo tells us, warns us, informs us that if we can remove this veil of these excuses, we can see we'll make it easier for ourselves. The difficulties of the character persist so long as one yields to them in action when they rise. One has to make a strict rule not to act according to the impulses of anger, ego. So, impulses of anger, impulses of ego, dictates of ego, or whatever the weakness may be that one wants to get rid of. Or if one does act in the heat of moment, but first we'll stop, that one has to make a strict rule, one will have to be. You know how it is said that to become effortless, one has to put a lot of effort. So one has to make a strict rule not to act according to the impulses of anger, ego. You know, anger is much easier because you can clearly see it, feel it, rise it coming. Ego is more subtler, but of course, we catch it if we are ready, if we are attentive, or whatever the weakness may be for us individually, if there is anything individual. So, whatever one wants to get rid of, if one continues to do that, when they arise, when they come to take us over, the harder it would be to leave. So, if there's a strict rule in my being not to act according to that impulse, it would make things easier. But he continues, or if one does act in the heat of the moment, knowing our nature, knowing our character, knowing our weaknesses, he's still giving us a way out that best is for you not to act. And yet, if you are not able to, if you were not able to control and you did end up giving in to that impulse in the heat of the moment, then at least do this much. Do not justify or persist in the action. Do not give excuses. Do not say it was all right. To yourself more than the other. Or persist in the action. Stop when you can. Step back the moment you can. A lot of times, even while something is being done and you're not able to control it, calling the mother that I'm not able to control. It's like, some habit living itself. It has its own energy, own power. you're not able to control, and yet offering while it's happening or after you are done. So doing it even without fully being present to it decreases it, makes it weakens. So once I do it, if I get angry and then I say, oh, यहाँ तो गुस्सा बनता ही था. I had to be angry here. I had no choice. So then that something in me is listening too, right? In the world of my lies, my black lies and white lies, the one I'm lying to is myself. Rest nobody cares really. I mean, of course, I do end up hurting people but the maximum damage I do to myself because I start believing those lies, those self-created lies, I start believing in them. So yes, I'm not very intelligent, I'm not very wise. As Chet Sunmala says, we are quite stupid really. Because who would believe a lie if they knew themselves they were telling a lie? But I do it. So, if one does act in the heat of the moment, not to justify or persist in the action, if one does that, after a time, the difficulty abates, it goes away, or is confined purely to a subjective movement which one can observe, detach oneself from, and combat. So, if one is either able to have a strict rule not to act, and or if one is not able to control and acts up in the heat of the moment, if one steps back as soon as one realizes, does not justify, realize that, oh, it has happened again. No need for some guilt trip, victim identity, no justifications, clarifications. If one just steps back that, oh, it happened again, and offers it. If one does not persist in the action, after a time, the difficulty goes away or is confined purely to a subjective movement in which I am not the active participant. So, with the subjective movement, I am the witness. I can observe, I can detach, and I can fight. That story that we have shared sometimes of Vibhishan is coming to me. How it is said that, when Vibhishan had joined Sri Ram's camp, of course, everybody in Sri Ram's army was a vegetarian. Veganism wasn't there at that time. So they would be eating fruits mostly. But Vibhishan, he was used to, animals, the meat. And although he didn't want to, he couldn't stop. So he kept offering to the divine. So there is this thing that there was this, soldier who came and complained that, our sanctity is getting affected because of his consumption. And Ramji said, oh, just give it time, just give it time. And then he was told that, earlier on he was killing deers and then he was killing rabbits and then he was, now he's just killing birds. As in, it's becoming smaller and lesser. And Ramji said, I know. Because even while he's doing it and when he's eating, he's crying out to me that, Lord, make me stop. Make me stop. I don't want to do it. And yet, because we have been going on for so long, sometimes movements, habits have a life of their own, and before we can fully stop, there is still some residue, and we can let that live. But it would surely abate if we persist. So that was the first passage in the difficulties of the character by Sri Aurobindo. The next passage by the mother is a big one, so we will break it into parts. So mother says, even the most beautiful theories, even if one knows mentally many things and holds admirable principles, that is not sufficiently strong to create a will capable of resisting an impulse. Stories of our lives, we think just because we have read, just because we know, we have become it. I have got it. I am the master of it. But we know by now that is not true. And Mother tells us that even the most beautiful theories, something that really moved us, something we are like, yes, wow. So even if one knows mentally many things and holds admirable principle, that is not sufficiently strong to create a will capable of resisting an impulse. So theory and practical is very different. Knowledge and karma is different, at least in the beginning. Knowing does not make me change my actions naturally. I have to make an effort. I have to aspire. I have to offer. I have to have a strict rule, as Sri Aurobindo was reminding us in the earlier passage. So even the most beautiful theories, even if one knows mentally many things and holds admirable principles, that is not sufficiently strong to create a will capable of resisting an impulse. So, when I'm not able to resist an impulse, that means my will is not strong enough. And just knowing things in theory, getting attracted to things just in theory, does not make my will capable of resisting an impulse. We all have images about us. We all have images about ourselves that this is who I am. So right, so honest, such a good friend. I wish I had a friend like me. But if we were to look at the truths of our existence, the story is something else. So we think really highly, and yet the life that I'm leading has lies, has insecurities, has deceptions, have diplomacies, have greeds, have lusts, have desires, has dishonesty, insincerity, has a lot of me in it. So just holding admirable principles really does nothing at all. Rather, it makes us blind to the truth of our existence. I digressed. So coming back, at one time, you are quite determined. You have decided that it would be thus. For example, that you would not do such a thing. It is settled. You will not do it. But how is it that suddenly you do not know how or why, nor what has happened? You have not decided anything at all. So, rereading this, at one time you are quite determined. You have decided that it would be thus, that for you will not do such a thing. You have decided, you're determined. It is settled. For you, it is done. But how? But suddenly, we don't even know how it happens. You have not decided anything at all. And then you immediately find yourself an excellent reason for doing the thing. So the same thing that you thought was a done deal, that it would never happen again. Suddenly, a reason comes in your being, and an excellent one at that. An excellent reason is given to us for doing the thing. Among others, there is a certain kind of excuse which is always given. Well, if I do it this time, I shall be convinced that it is very bad and I shall do it no longer, and this will be the last time. So, knowing now, or if we had known before, grace to us, that this is the excuse that come, that because I know I have been working on it. I know I have been trying to quit that several times. But again, I tell myself that if I do it this time, then I will know for sure, I will be convinced that yes, it is very bad. And then I will do it no longer. And this will be the last time. Mother says, it is the prettiest excuse one always gives to oneself. Because I have an image that I do things right. I don't fall for temptations. I'm righteous and ethical and moral and follower of the truth. But from within me only comes this new way, this excuse that, oh, what I'm doing is for my own good. Because that is convincing me of the bad I do, so that makes it all right. The mother says it is the prettiest excuse one always gives to oneself that this is the last time I'm doing it. This time I'm doing it to understand perfectly that it is bad and that it must not be done, and I shall not do it any more. This is the last time. So, this is the excuse mother says we give to ourselves. The words may change, the language might be different, but the essence is the same. I find a way to justify something that I should not be doing. Remember we had shared something recently on the group where, a sadhaka is telling the mother that, Mother, my God, I have to. I don't know, she was talking about eating something specific, maybe caviar or something, I don't know, some fish, that I am so very badly wanting to eat it. Mother, can you please either allow me to eat it or, help me? The mother said that the only thing you will eat is the desire to eat that because you're not eating that. So eat up your desire, and that's the way to stop the desire. So every last time that I do something, I'm again increasing its strength. I'm again adding 100 soldiers from my army to the enemy's army, making it stronger. So Mother says, every time it is the last time and you begin again. So Mother says, of course, there are some who have less clear ideas and who say to themselves, after all, why don't I want to do it? These are stories, they are principles that might not be true. If I have this impulse, what is it that tells me that this impulse is not better than a theory? It is not for them the last time, it is something they accept as quite natural. So, before this passage, in the last one, the paragraph, not the passage, Mother says firstly about those who are fully convinced, who know this is bad, and yet they are not able to stop the movement. And then they are giving excuses, justifying that, oh, this was so bad, and yet I did it, for this and this reason. And yet there are others who are not yet convinced, who say to themselves that, what's the harm? Who knows? The one who said the theory doesn't know what I am going through. My greed is not greed. My lust is not lust. And even if it is, the God created me this way. It is, of course, but natural for me to do it. My kid, he's just, I don't know, I have to call him for 2 hours before he comes down and study. I have to get angry. Otherwise, he doesn't listen. So, of course, there are some who have less clear ideas and who say to themselves, after all, why don't I want to do it? These are stories, they are principles that might not be true. So I start doubting the truth of the right and justifying my impulses, my desires, that is better than the theory. I've been born in the human body. I must be allowed to do this. Otherwise, why did I even take birth? But of course, it is natural. Forgetting that, yes, it is natural, but I can be over nature. I'm not the nature, not ruled by it. I have to transcend it. The Atman has to transcend the nature. So for them, Mother says, it is not even, it is not for them the last time. It is something that they accept as quite natural. Mother says, between these two extremes, there are all the possibilities, but the most dangerous of all is to say, well, I'm doing it once more this time. That will purify me of this. Afterwards, I shall no longer do it. Now the purification is never enough. So if this is the trap that we find ourselves in, maybe we would not, by grace, now agree to that trap. Because Mother says the most dangerous is to justify this to yourself that this falling, this succumbing to the desire, This movement will purify me. And after this, I will not no longer want to do it. I will see how bad it is, but it never happens because this purification is never enough. It's never enough. There won't be a day when you would actually feel that it's enough. In the Yoga Sutras, I think in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, I could be misremembering the area, but it is said that, the senses, all our senses, it's never, ever, ever, ever enough for them. Their nature is that they will never say that, yes, this is it. I don't need to be fulfilled, indulged any longer. They will never, ever, ever say that's against their nature because their nature is always more, 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 more. So if I'm telling myself that this is the last time and I will not want to do it again, that would not happen because again, that's the nature of my senses. So Mother says now the purification is never enough. It happens only when you have decided, well, this time I'm going to try not to do it, and I shall not do it. I shall apply all my strength and I shall not do it. So, Mother says that if I have to take up some resolve, if I want to be smart, if I want to be wise, because when I'm saying this, right, that when I'm saying this, oh yeah, let me do it once because then I will know how bad it is. Oh, let me do it once because then I'll be rid of it. Then I'll be purified from it. Will never work. The only thing, the only time it would work is when I do the opposite that man, I have been doing it for years and years, maybe for lifetimes. What maybe? Definitely for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. If I have not learned it then, how will I learn it now? Well, this time let me try, let me resolve. And it also helps if you don't think about the next 100 times when that impulse will come, when you'll have to stop it. Just restricting, limiting ourselves to just this time. That can I try just this one time not to fall prey to this impulse, this desire, this wrong movement. So I'm going to try not to do it and I shall not do it. I shall apply all my strength and I shall not do it. For doing it requires no strength. It's the most natural slip possible. And to stand against it, to say no, requires all my strength and lots of grace. The Mother says, even if you have just a little success, it is much. Not a big success, but just a small success, a very partial success. You do not carry out what you yearn to do, but the yearning, the desire, the passion is still there, and that produces worlds within, but outside you resist. And if we are even a little bit attentive to this feverish longing, yearning, desire, we can distinctly feel the worlds, those waves of that movement That feverishness we can feel physically in our body, that how that movement is happening. So you do not carry out what you yearn to do, but the yearning, the desire, the passion is still there, and that produces worlds within, but outside you resist. I shall not do it. I shall not move. Even if I have to bind myself hand and foot, I shall not do it. So, one might feel that if the desire is so strong that I'm not able to resist, it's better to just do it. It feels easier to just do it. It just feels it would be faster to just do it. That at least the temptation will go, the desire will go. I'm actually being smart because, I'm overriding it by consenting to it. I'm not letting it be an issue anymore. Done and over. There's this, then I don't know, maybe a pastry that I wanted to eat, which I know I shouldn't. But the more I sit and say, I don't want to, it'll be faster to eat it. And then next time I might not even want to do it. It never happens. All our tricks, we are lying to ourselves and falling further down. So even though I might feel that how dishonest it is that, from inside I so badly want to do it, the passion is still there and that produces worlds within. But outside you resist. I shall not do it. I shall not move. Even if I have to bind myself hand and foot, I shall not do it. It is a partial success, but it is a great victory because due to this, next time you will be able to do a little more. How it is said that Rome wasn't built in one day. So, first thing is, we don't even realize something is an issue. With grace, we slowly start realizing that, oh no, this is not okay, this is not okay, I better stop. Then I do a lot of trying to stop and I'm not able to. I scum by scum by scum. And then while I'm doing it, I, kind of start thinking that this is not okay. And then when I resolve not to do it, something in us changes. Every time, Mother says, every time you say no, every time you resist, you're able to stand up, take a stand, not scum. It gets weaker. Although to us, it might not feel that anything has changed. See, the passion is still there, the desire is still there, the temptation is still there. What's the point of this lie that I'm telling myself that I will not when my whole being wants to? And yet, that is not a lie. That is me standing against myself to stop me from something I know is not good for me, is not auspicious, is not, it doesn't make me stronger, it's not right, it nods towards the truth that I am seeking. So, although for us it might not feel anything, it is a partial success. So, in terms of success, I might feel that was it even good for anything? But it is a great victory because due to this, next time you will be able to do a little more. That is to say, instead of holding all the violent passion within yourself, you can begin calming them a little, right? But it is a great victory because due to this, next time you will be able to do a little more That is to say, instead of holding all the violent passions within yourself, you can begin calming them a little, the passions, and you will calm them slowly at first with difficulty. They will remain long, they will come back, they will trouble you, vex you, produce in you a great disgust, all that. But if you resist well and say, no, I shall carry out nothing, whatever the cost. I shall not carry out anything. I will stay like a rock. What beautiful way Mother has expressed this, telling us that it would not be easy, telling us that these impulses will stay for long and they'll keep coming back. And they would even say that, last time you were able to resist, so this time give in, come on, now you are stronger. Now it's in your will, now you're making a conscious choice. I'm not ruling you anymore. See, if you stop, you want to stop, you can stop. So they will remain long, they will come back, they will trouble you, vex you, produce in you a great disgust, all that. But if you resist well and say, no, I shall carry out nothing, whatever the cost, I shall not carry out anything, I will stay like a rock. So this, especially this one, I think I'm finding it very beautiful, that I will stay like a rock. Even if I would have wanted to move, a rock cannot move. So my decision is like a rock. I will stay like a rock. Then little by little, that thins out, and you begin to learn the second attitude. So by taking a resolve and not giving in, I am led to the second attitude, which is now I want my consciousness to be above those things. There will still be many battles, but if my consciousness stands above that, little by little, there will come a time when this will return no longer. So the second aspect is this, wanting your consciousness to be higher, being in the battle but not fighting the battle now because you are positioned above. And when this shift happens, again, this also takes a lot of time. But when this happens and the consciousness begins to climb a bit higher, then that thing, that impulse, that desire will no longer return. But the story has not ended. There is more. The mother says, and then there is a time when you feel that you are absolutely free. You do not even perceive it. And then that is all. So after this, okay, I thought maybe there's more attacks, but mother says that when the consciousness is able, if when we are able to by grace, have the consciousness which is higher than this, then there comes a time when you are absolutely free. You do not even perceive it, and then that is all. So mother says, it may take a long time. It may come soon. That depends on the strength of character, on the sincerity of aspiration. So what does this win, these wins depend on? They depend on the strength of my character. How strong am I? And on the sincerity of the aspiration. But even for people who have just a little sincerity, if they subject themselves to the process, they succeed. So let me not have any excuses to not do this. I could say, I don't have a strong resolve. Oh, I'm not that sincere. So let me not even try. The mother says, even if you have a little sincerity, if they subject themselves to this process and still with that little sincerity that we have, if we try it, we will succeed. It takes time. They succeed in the first item in not expressing. All forces upon earth tend towards expressing themselves. These forces come with the object of manifesting themselves, and if you place a barrier and refuse expression, they may try to beat against the barrier for a time, but in the end, they will tire themselves out and not being manifested, they will withdraw and leave you quiet. The mother is kind of warning us, giving us a complete picture that when we begin and when we aspire to not express it, when from the inside we want it, but we say, no, we will not take any action, when we will not express that desire, then it's as if all the forces upon earth tend towards expressing themselves, like as if there's such a strong push towards us to express it. Come on, so many excuses, so much strength, as if you cannot escape. So these forces come with the object of manifesting themselves, and if you place a barrier and refuse expression, they beat against the barrier for a time, but in the end, if you don't open, they will tire themselves out and not being manifested, they will withdraw. And if we do this a few times, they would stop trying. So they leave you quiet. So I guess mother is now summarizing that you must never say, I shall first purify my thought, purify my body, purify my vital, and then later I shall purify my action, right? That's what we usually fall for. That I should stop having these thoughts, these feelings, these emotions, these desires, and then my action will automatically be purified. That's what comes naturally to us. The mother says that is the normal order, but it never succeeds. The effective order is to begin from the outside. The very first thing is that, this is also there, this last paragraph is also there in the sunlit part because it's so important. So the very first thing is that I do not do it, and afterwards I desire it no longer. And next, I close my doors completely to all impulses. They no longer exist for me. I am now outside all that. This is the true order, the order that is effective. First, not to do it, and then you will no longer desire, and after that, it will go out of your consciousness completely. The mother. So we are out of time. We'll take the last paragraph again next time, and this time we'll end here. So we are still in the sections ordeals and difficulties, section 3. We'll take this last passage by the mother again, the last paragraph of the last passage. So ending the session here, thanking grace, thanking the divine, for the aspiration, the strength, the wisdom, the intelligence, the grace to be present to these learnings, to these teachings, and praying that may these words not remain words. May they not remain just something that was beautiful. May they become me. May I am able to receive and make practical changes in my attitude and my life. And we have had beautiful teachings today. May I implement them. May they become me. Praying this for ourselves and everyone. May all beings be truly well and truly happy. And may no one suffer.